I usually see in those podcasts where they start with some kind of how do you call it, like quick cuts. They cut out like the most offensive, like the most crazy statements out of the context, and then they
Hmm.
chop them out, and then it sounds like a crazy story or something. Not doing that.
Okay.
Not doing that here. So I think the first thing what I want to start with is just in general, like tell me what you're in general doing, because I have approximate idea, and I have a lot of interesting thing that I want to discuss. But what do you do in general? Like I saw on your LinkedIn, if you look at your LinkedIn, it looks like you're working at 5 companies at the same time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that is probably due to there's a handful of co-ops and memberships and stuff that I'm a part of that I have listed there. But ultimately, I'm the founder, principal consultant of CRM Hacker. We essentially work with small, medium-sized businesses to really help them optimize their full, revenue operations, go-to-market, engineering stack, but with a very strong focus on Salesforce specifically. And we work with, like I said, just really everything from the sales, marketing, and customer success side of the business, trying to just add efficiency where we can and help them drive more business with less effort, work smarter, not harder, essentially.
I love it. This is I love it. Work smart, not hard. Yes, yes, yes. This is good. So basically, you're optimizing sales processes for the company, right? For the companies in Salesforce, right?
Exactly.
And I think like a big part of it is the RevOps, right? Like from what I understood, you're doing a lot of RevOps stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah, I have a large background prior to Salesforce consulting, a lot of sales operations, marketing operations work, and kind of basically RevOps before the buzzword kind of became RevOps. And then I've just taken all of that experience and knowledge with me, along with my Salesforce expertise, to really apply the strategy and the execution. So I think what kind of sets us apart from CRM Hacker at CRM Hacker is just that we, come with the strategy as well as, the hands-on, getting our hands dirty to get the full job done in its entirety.
I think like 99% of the people who are gonna hear RevOps, me including, I have no idea what it is. I can tell you this. I obviously I also prepared for this. I like read. I heard RevOps so many times. I even watched the Salesforce band interview about RevOps, and I can tell you after like trying to understand it for so long, I have no idea what it is, and I have suspicion that even like people who like just listen to it, they also don't have any idea. Like, what can you explain me what is this RevOps thing? Like, I don't think that, for example, I can apply it in my business, right?
Well, I mean, anyone can. I mean, in your, I guess your business primarily from like a training perspective and coaching, and if you're focused primarily on developers, I mean, there's definitely ways to weave it in to the conversation and into your business. But ultimately, the way that I see it and the way that I think it is like it's ultimately kind of being responsible. It's a team, a department, a person. RevOps is responsible for kind of combining all of the business processes, systems, all together from the sales, marketing, customer success side, making sure that it all, works seamlessly. And under RevOps, often in larger organizations, you'll have it split up into different teams where you'll have sales ops roll up to RevOps, marketing ops roll up to RevOps, and things like that. So then it's one department essentially that combines all of these other pieces of the business to then apply them into whether it's Salesforce or combining the different tech stack and pieces there so that it all works seamlessly rather than having, an admin on the marketing side and an admin and developer on the sales side doing their own separate things, which creates silos. So it kind of really helps reduce the silos between all the teams and systems within, in organizations' overall process, their structure, and tech stack. Specifically from my side, I work with a lot of, the technology side of the business.
Let's say I have a sales team, right? I have a sales team, which I want to build a sales team in this year. So it's a big task for me. So let's say I have actually a real story. I have a guy who helps me with marketing. We can call it a marketing team, and I'm gonna build a sales team, right? So the RevOps is basically like trying to combine them so that they work together and like not mess up together, right? That's that's how I understand it.
In its simplest form, and it's meant to like it's revenue operations, right? So the revenue component is a big piece of it where, historically companies would think like sales is responsible for revenue, right? But then that became, customer success is responsible for upsells oftentimes and renewals and all of that,
Mm,
which is revenue. And then you have marketing, which of course, although sales and marketing might, butt heads oftentimes, marketing definitely has a hand in revenue too. So it's really just kind of putting all those pieces together to just effectively hope to and strive to drive just more and more revenue by having like there's the concept of a you have
yeah,
the customer funnel, like the life cycle of a lead to
yeah.
customer, and like that's like the traditional sense of what we always did. Okay, then we close the deal, then what happens? Well, there's like a new concept or more a newer concept, which is a flywheel, which is ultimately you have a lead, you get a new customer, and then you delight that customer and just keep going and trying to sell that, renew them, upsell, and everything like that. But there's, all different points of the business that touch the full, flywheel life cycle. And that's where, revenue ops like really comes in to try to make that as seamless as possible. It's all about kind of at the end of the day, the customer journey, make sure that they're having the best experience possible.
Okay, now this is what I understand. This is what I understand because I mean you probably seen like we had this course launch, right, that I did, and we had like around 300 people joining the course. And then what we did, I mean like me and my mentor, what we did is that instead of trying to get even more customers on this like front end product, we are trying right now to sell to already existing customers. And like when you sell them a course, it kind of solves one of the problem, but then after that you get like new problems for people, right? Okay, they solve the course, but they're not done with learning everything, right? So you need to sell them, you need to upsell them, and like this you can basically move them, and you don't really need to do new sales, right? You can basically upsell the same people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the concept that you speak about, right?
Exactly. And that's where I think a lot of companies just over the last 10 years or so like have really figured that out. Like, oh, we need to increase revenue. Well, it's not necessarily always just getting new business. Like you can upsell, grow, put more focus into customer success, allow marketing to work with customer success and go after, existing customers as well, just to keep engaging them and really just growing the amount of products or services that you're providing for any given customer. Of course, new business is always important, but I think there was a stat, I forget exactly what it was, but
Mm-hmm.
recurring business is taking up or becoming a larger chunk of revenue than like new business. So it's a smart thing to really just keep your customers on board and prevent churn, make sure that they're happy and they're getting the value that they should be for the service.
Also the trust, right? Like once someone spends a little bit money with you, you gain the trust of those people. Like
Yeah, they become sticky, and it's easy to keep them on board as long as again you're not um, doing anything harmful or they're not losing money and they're happy with the services. Like that's just going to be a long-term relationship.
yeah, yeah, that's what I found, like what I found hard, like what I was fighting until this year the most is that people actually try out my stuff because I'm like relatively new in the ecosystem, and like people didn't see my courses before, right? There are other people who have been like for 10 years, and I fight it so that they at least try my stuff. So yeah, it's cool. I know, like I heard this concept but in a different context. Like this guy, I'm like yeah. So there's this guy, and he has this client flywheel or something like this concept, and he says that you're getting new clients, and then you're getting like the testimonials from them, and those testimonials and good results that you bring, they attract the new clients, and that's like the flywheel, like you kickstart the business basically in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's obviously always a great idea. Get testimonials, referrals, and everything from all of your delighted customers, and use that in your marketing, sales. So I try to do that myself for my business. I don't have too many testimonials yet, though. I'm trying to build those up. So I've got like 8 that I can, refer to, but I like to build that up so that I'm not just repeating the same thing in my messaging.
It's like it's super hard in B2B, right? Because you only do B2B, right? You don't have any B2C basically.
So interestingly, I am actually talking to a company right now that's B2C, and it's like a roofing business. So they're ultimately selling to households and like residential stuff. So I'm trying to figure that out. I'm doing a bit of research, trying to understand just the differences and make sure it's something that I'm willing to tackle, which I think I'm going to.
Mm. I mean, what I meant is like that you're not selling to individuals, right? You're selling to like to businesses yourself,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
right?
correct,
That's
correct.
mm,
Right, right. Where I guess in your case, then you'll have, an individual that wants to learn Apex, right? And so then they're going to purchase the course.
yeah, yeah. Because you can. I I'm thinking about this area of like selling to the companies, and that's so scary.
I was just about to ask, like, if you could sell like a a package of 10 like licenses for the course or something, or like if there was, then they maybe get a volume discount or something like that. I feel like that could be a potentially good that'd be something I'd be willing to test out if I was in your shoes, for sure.
The problem is that I don't even know how to specifically market for them. I have companies that bought like bulk license, like 10 licenses or something, but it's not something that I control. It's more like the individuals at those companies, they work and they know me, right? So they kind of can push through the idea, and the the kind of the sometimes controversial posts that I do on LinkedIn, they're more appealing for people rather than for manager, like for developers or
Right,
admins
right.
rather than managers. So this is I have like that's why I joined the mastermind by John. I have no idea how people sell companies to companies. Like, yeah. So it's
it's it's tricky. It's something, it's an art and a science, and I'm trying to figure it out myself. All my business has been like referrals and inbound. I've had a couple inbounds, but primarily referrals from either past clients or colleagues that I worked with at previous companies, where then they moved to different companies, and then needed some Salesforce help. But that's not sustainable, where you're not, controlling your pipeline. You're not controlling, you can't make somebody give you like a referral appear out of thin air. So I'm really trying to figure that out on primarily on the LinkedIn side, um, of all of that, and just getting kind of started here. Just last year, just started dipping my toes into the water, of like trying to really take LinkedIn more seriously.
and how's it going with LinkedIn?
It was going really well, and then end of December, I like didn't really post much, and beginning like the first week of this year, I didn't really post anything. And I haven't posted super consistently yet, but my impressions, everything has completely dropped off.
I can so a lot of people they say stuff like, "Oh, it doesn't matter how you post; it matters that your content is awesome, and then people gonna react it and it's gonna do well." I really disagree with this, and the same happens to me. LinkedIn is so it's not random. You can learn it, but like for example, today I made a post and it get like, I don't know, like 10 likes or something. Like this is very, like this is nothing. uh and the same with the impressions. So LinkedIn is so, like, I don't know, I'm so done relying on LinkedIn. It can be great, but if you don't have the control over the audience, you don't have the control over the algorithm, you're at the mercy of just like randomness.
Yeah. And that's right.
And
You've been building a like a newsletter and email list too, right? Which you've been sending a bunch of emails out with.
this is incredible. Like, I don't know if you're doing this. Probably not, right? You're not sending the emails to the.
No, not at this point.
I really, this is, I feel like I know a secret that no one else knows. So like emails, it's incredible. If you look, I got so deep into this email world, and it's pretty normal in other niches to send daily emails,
Hmm.
but not in B2B, not in Salesforce. And it's so incredible. It works for me so good.
And I tested out like cold emails and kind of cold outbound outreach and stuff like that, but I haven't done anything as far as like building an actual list of emails for people that like really want to hear from me and kind of setting up like a drip or anything like that. That's something that I want to get into eventually, hopefully this year.
Yeah, I just feel there's not many people take it seriously, the emails, especially like when they try to sell to companies. Yeah, I feel like there's a huge niche there, huge opportunities there, because the best, basically, it doesn't matter where people read you, right? Like if people read you, if people read your opinion, your thoughts, your stories, they get into you, right? They get into your thought process. Then doesn't matter, is it email, is it LinkedIn, whatever, right? But in the emails you have direct access to the person. You're just sending direct email, and you can send an
Hmm.
email, hey, like you can I know, tell, like what I do is like you tell a story, and then at the end you say, hey, reply with this, with something if you're interested, and people reply. It's so awesome.
Yeah,
So awesome. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So few things, super interesting. So you say that in your LinkedIn, I see that you wrote that you're a farmer. What do you do?
Yes.
Tell me about this. That's a little bit unrelated, but tell me about this.
Amateur
Super interesting.
farmer, I'll say. It's a trial and error process. So I have a I have two garden beds essentially in a community garden here in Fort Lauderdale that I don't know, it's probably like a 4x6 or 4x8 size bed. There's two of them. I've been growing my own like tomatoes. Right now, I've got some heirloom Cherokee tomatoes growing. I have some like cherry small tomatoes, and then I have a couple pepper plants and like bok choy and kale. Um, a few years ago, I discovered this place and was just thinking like, oh, this would be a nice way to spend like a Sunday morning or something, just go out and tend to the crops and stuff like that. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And now I go to the garden almost like every single day, at least to water, do, trimming and stuff. And it's like a little meditative for me. It's just doing some type of, picking the weeds. Like it's mindless. It's just, okay, you're focused, find the weed, all right, pick it out, and then continue to do that. Where like kind of allows me to shut my brain off or a part of my brain off where I don't have to think about business or anything that might be stressing me out. Um,
So it's
yeah.
not because the food in US is so bad. It's because you want to disconnect.
Yeah, so I mean, everything that I do grow, it all is fully organic and everything. And everything has been way better than anything you could get at the store. It's also nice when you could just like pick a tomato off the tree and just eat like the little cherry tomatoes, eat them right there on the spot. Just, make sure they're not poisonous, as they say.
We have here American bread. I think it's called American bread or something. Like
Okay.
it's ritually, so it's like toast bread, and it's like not a real bread. It's more like a sponge or something, and it's sold in like American packages, like with all American flags and all of this. And I had it once in my shelf, and it survived 1 month without anything happening to it. And I was like,
Mhm.
what the hell? No way anything remotely not chemical can survive that long.
Exactly. And that's half the reason why they do it too. More shelf life. You know, you don't have to throw out things that are going bad because they're just filled with preservatives and whatever is making them last that long.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so I got distracted. I got distracted by this thing. So, um, I want to ask you. So, a couple of interesting things that I saw. I'm super curious. I saw that you did MBA, right?
Yes.
Was it worth it? Was it worth it? I had a dream to do MBA, and then I was like, meh.
I, you know, I think about this often because I mean it's expensive and it was a 23-month program, so it was a night program. I did it while I was working a full-time job, and I ultimately started doing this program because that employer at the time was offering a tuition reimbursement, and they're offering like $10,000 a year, like a good amount. I was gonna stretch it out over 36 months, and then they would cover pretty much 95% of it. But
Why
then,
why would any employer do that? That doesn't make sense. Like you just use them for this like for education, then you just leave
and then
or
so they pay for it, and then I like as part of the agreement, I have to stay with the employer for like 2 more years after that or something. Like it was a commitment to like they're gonna pay for my education, and then hopefully I take that education and apply it to their business and make their business better. But there was some type of stipulation where I had to remain an employee for X amount of year. I think it was 2 years after that. But when I signed up for it, um, or when I got accepted into the program, literally like the next day, the HR department of this company sends out a notice that says, if you haven't been with the company for 2 full years, then we're not going to cover your tuition anymore. And I was with the company as a contracted employee for like a year and a half and was like 6 months into my full-time employment. And so I wasn't an employee for 2 years, and just things happened. I left that company, actually got, fired from that company because I just was young and I had a few choice words for the HR team. Once they like I got that email, it was like I just got accepted. Like what's going There was like five other people in
yeah.
my same situation that I was like trying to stick up for too. Um, but that was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, like getting out of that company, because it ultimately led me down this Salesforce path with which I don't think I ever would have done.
Go on. That was a crazy story, by the way. That was a crazy like this is screw up. Like this,
Yeah.
I don't know. I would tell the same the same for the HR. Like what the hell? So basically, you had to pay yourself, right? For
So then I ended up having to pay myself throughout the 2 years or so, whatever. Um, I would say it benefited me in the way that I mean, in I was working for I was a sales operations manager at a software company when I finished my MBA, right? That was all great. I got a couple promotions like shortly after that, not necessarily tied to my MBA or anything, but um, just in that time. And then I like basically got poached from that company to go to another software company, but different industry. And I think that was one of the key factors. And like I got a really big raise from them poaching me and leaving that. And I would say I was there for like 2.5 or 3 years. So like the increase of the salary and everything ultimately ended up like paying for the MBA. Like it made up for that. That's where I would say it was worth it. But like I think just real world experience is so much more important. And I would say if someone is interested in getting an MBA, I wouldn't go from like finishing your bachelor's, in university to then go directly into an MBA program. So like go get a job, work for a couple years, get that real world experience, and then if you're interested in learning more, get a better understanding of. I took the most out of it from like the accounting side and finance side of the business. With regards, there were some really cool projects that we did. I met a lot of great people. But yeah, I would say there was some people in the program that went straight from college, and you could tell like there was just a massive gap in kind of understanding or ease of learning, I guess, the material with versus the people that are in full-time jobs and have that type of real world experience.
And I just saw today, I saw an article, I think it came out yesterday on Wall Street Journal, something like this. And there was an article that the Harvard, the graduate students of Harvard MBA, like one of the best in the world, they struggle to find jobs for many months.
I saw that too. Yeah, crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy, and like I mean, it's super expensive, and yeah, people, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Exactly. And I used to, when I first got into the Salesforce ecosystem at this, like the first software company I essentially worked at, the owners slash CEO and, CMO, they're just like, why do you want to get a certification? Like, that doesn't mean that you know everything. Like, you gotta, and so they were first like pushing back because I was asking them to pay for it. And so they're like, oh, why do you need to do this? Why do you need to do this? And then I just, kept working within Salesforce and then got to a point where I was like, hey, like, come on, let me just get that piece of paper. It was my first, role into Salesforce. So I think it's helpful for anyone who doesn't have much experience, just to kind of show, oh, hey, I passed this test. I have some knowledge here. But yeah, like real world experience is the only, especially for Salesforce, like it's so hands on. You have to really know what you're doing and where you're going, where to point the mouse and everything, as opposed to like understanding a concept. Concepts are important, but doing is a little bit more. You need to get shit done at the end of the day.
That I can promise you, they're gonna be at least one comment that's gonna address this, and they're gonna say, no, you have to be 30x certified.
Yeah, I know. I always see like 13 times certified. They're like the double ranger, mountaineer rank, whatever all those things are.
I have 1 million trailhead points. Like, what the hell does it even mean?
Yeah, I recently logged into my trailhead. I'm like in like the second tier of ranking or whatever. I'm like, like I can't really say the same thing, but what does that actually mean? I think the trailhead thing would give more. I would give more credit to the trailhead like ranking and points over like a certification, because there's all of like the hands-on trails and actual like projects that you have to get into the actual system and use. And that's how I taught myself too, was all through trailhead. Just anything would come up from a request from the sales team or marketing team, then I don't know how to do it. Okay, let's search trailhead. There's a perfect like real world scenario, walk through that, and then boom, I can apply it to the live company's instance.
Yeah, Trailhead is awesome. Trailhead is awesome, especially for. It's not so good for coding. It's actually quite bad for coding, but it's really good for anything else, I think. Anything else Salesforce related. How did you actually end up with Salesforce? How did it happen? So you finished the MBA, and then
I will go back, I guess. I got fired from the company that was offering the MBA and took it away. I then a few months later got a job at it was a company owned by eBay, but it was like basically a drop shipping software company where they had like the company was created and built in the 90s and they hadn't changed one thing about their platform. And I was like, you'd have to learn how to write SQL to pull a report. and like just to find data and everything. I'm like, this is not, there's got to be a better way for this. So then I got permission to start like looking for CRMs, and I came across Salesforce. I was like, oh, this is great. Started like I did a couple demos, got into the sales process with them. And then at the same time, this company, the software company, which I had applied to multiple times for different sales roles, which just didn't be a fit, they reached out to me like, hey, we've got a sales operations role. Want to come in and interview? Took the interview. Salesforce administration was one of the key responsibilities, and I had some database CRM, but like old school, like type of. I knew how a database worked at the end of the day, so then I was able to then take over the sales operations, Salesforce administration for the sales side, and then eventually in sales ops, we worked closely with the marketing ops team, customer success team. I have a large marketing background also, just like my education's all marketing, digital marketing. So I always had a lot of things to say about marketing. And eventually I ended up taking over the marketing operations as well for that company. So it grew to sales and marketing operations, which then I'm running like Pardot, Salesforce, and all of like the tech stack for both sides of the business, which then eventually I ended up getting poached for another software company, which I went straight into like the marketing operations side because I had a specific focus in sales ops, and then I had a shared focus in sales and marketing ops, but then I wanted to get like a specific focus into marketing ops and really have like a detailed view in there. So then I did that for 2.5 years or so, with a little bit of like demand generation mixed into that. And then I ended up leaving there. I think it was like June of 2021, to go full time with my consulting business. Just as I was working for this company full time, they allowed us to take on side gigs and do freelancing and stuff as long as it didn't like impact our performance with that company. So, I ended up with like 8 clients or something. Like by the time I left in June, I was like, all right, like I can't do this full-time thing anymore. Like I've got to go to consulting and take over from there. And I've loved it. I mean, I wouldn't go back. And like I said, it all started when I got fired from that company, because that ultimately, like I thought I was going to work at that company like my entire life. Like I was like, it was a massive Fortune 500 company. Like they have like a 90% household penetration in the United States with one of their brands. Like it was just massive. I was like, this is great. I didn't know anything better. Now I'll never go back to the corporate world. Like it's either small business startups or just, consulting like I'm doing.
Okay, no, you never want to work again for someone.
No, well, I mean, I'll work for somebody, in like a small organization where there's not too much red tape, and if there is an HR department, it's just one person, just
The founder that does the sales, the marketing, and the HR.
yeah, exactly.
This in like when you say op, like you say marketing ops, sales ops, right? So it's not the like, for example, I know people. I had like as an engineer, I had no idea about sales. I had to go to people and ask how you actually do the sales. That's not something you do,
Mhm.
right? So you're not coaching people on how to build like this funnel, right? You're more like doing the engineering behind the scenes, how to combine them, or how is it?
No, I'll work with the teams to help them, figure out how to build their funnel, how to figure out just
Oh, okay.
yeah, everything from like, I mean, whatever a company wants to pay me for, I'm happy to help them out with at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, I can help with, I'm not like a sales coach, right? Like I can't help teach somebody how to sell. I'm not a great salesperson myself, but with the data and like systems and processes, I can absolutely help. And it all starts with the data. Where I mean, I remember we used to always just trying to forecast and figure out if we need to close 100 deals, right? How many calls do we have to make? And so like we have to look at all the different steps and stages in between and all the math where it's like, okay, it might take 10,000 calls to get 5,000 opportunities, and then those be, just with the percentages going down the funnel and everything like that too.
Okay, now that explains. Now I finally understand after like 1 hour of trying to understand this whole
Yeah,
ops
yeah, and
stuff.
like it's so important just to have all the data in place. Like that's where it's all going to start. So then you can kind of identify like where are we slipping, where is something taking too much time, where is and then try to figure out how you can optimize and streamline any type of process.
Maybe that's just my business, but like you can get this data only once you're past certain size, right? Like 5 people, 10 people.
To an extent, I don't know what the number would be. I'd say it's more so you just need enough data. You need a large enough sample size, right? Whether that's the amount of people that you have or like the volume of calls, emails, just the different activities or anything that you're measuring. It's just a matter of do you have a large enough sample size? So, but yeah, the more people you have, the more data you're essentially going to be collecting. It just is exponential there.
And that also means that you need to have a system basically, right? How you can basically on the like button press, how you can spin out those like different processes.
Exactly. And like one example, like I remember again going back to this, my first sales ops role at the software company. They we used to use a tool called when I first got there, it was called Tout app, and it was like an emailing platform and email automation. But this was 2015, so like this is before like all of the sales automation, all of that stuff really started coming out. But then I found SalesLoft, and they had a date. It was a data sourcing tool that they had like a Chrome extension you'd pull from LinkedIn, and it would send it into Salesforce. That's all it was. But then at some point during the sales cycle, they flipped it on me where I was bringing my manager in to check out this prospecting tool, and then they show me their sales automation tool. I'm like, dude, this is not what what I brought you in for, but this is amazing. And so what we did like with that tool, we figured out with Tout, it took 22 clicks to get an email sent essentially, because you had to like click the prospect, add them to the email, do a few different tweaks and things, whatever. For whatever reason, it was 22 clicks. And then with like SalesLoft, it got down to like 3 clicks. So then I took that and just tried to then put like numbers, how much time, and like in my performance reviews and stuff. It's like, oh, look, we saved 75% of like the emailing time and things like that just by figuring out, oh shit, like it's taking 22 clicks to send an email. This is stupid. Then you can figure out a better process or system or tool that can do it better.
That reminds me on a company that I think I think it's a quite old company, but it's very known here in Munich. It's called Celonis, I think. And they basically what they did is that like they collect all the data of your company. They focus on big companies like Google. They collect all the data and they basically like build a heat map of your business process. And they say, hey, see here there's no link between the business process. Let's cut it out. And like they optimize it in that way basically. And they got like I think it's many billions valuation company. So yeah, that's no. I like now I understand. Now I understand way better. I think it's gonna be very helpful for people who want to understand what is this whole RevOps and all this thing is. Because usually people explain it in like terms. We optimize business process. Yeah, but what does it mean?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just breaking down silos the way I see it, and it's like the default thought is it's sales, marketing, customer success. But you think about like Salesforce, for example, all the different teams that touch Salesforce. You could have the product team touching Salesforce. You could have finance and accounting in Salesforce. You've got all these different teams and departments doing their own thing that you have one centralized team or person or department within RevOps that helps manage and control all those processes, eliminates redundancies, makes sure nothing breaks and everything really cohesively works seamlessly together. There's just there's so much that is like I keep thinking like it's really just an overall business like operations. It's way beyond just like the standard sales marketing thoughts there.
Yeah, no, I mean good. So I think we can did I miss something? Is there something that I missed you want to talk about that we did not discuss?
Well, if we did this yesterday, my background would be bright blue and sunny, not cloudy like it is today. But no, I think not. Like I said, there's nothing off the top of my head that I really had in mind. Just figured, you know, have a conversation and see where it went. I fig you know, I like to have these types of conversations, and I'm trying to get more involved into podcasts and vlogs and everything like that. So this is it's been yeah, great talking to you. I appreciate you having me on.
I enjoyed it a lot. I'm gonna hit on stop, and it's still gonna take a little bit for it
Yeah,
to process. You're working, so you're like you're living somewhere near Miami, right? Like somewhere in this climate.
correct. It's technically Fort Lauderdale, but I'm just 30 minutes north of Miami, not even. So if I was anywhere outside of the United States, I would just say from Miami, essentially, because that's
That's
what
true.
everybody knows.
It's like what's so strange for me, for my European mind to comprehend is that you can have Miami and then you can have essentially the same city, but it's just called a different city. Like it's like New York and New Jersey. Like I don't know, for me it's kind of like the same city. Like I don't know,
Mhm.
like it looks the same on the map, and like here we don't have such a huge cities. Like if it's Munich, it's one like Munich.
Yeah,
That's all.
and I think like the difference. I think the comparison would really be like thinking of Europe as like in as a whole and the United States. Like going from state to state is like going to different countries within Europe, basically. Like just with I mean the United States is very large, right? And it kind of covered like I've seen the like place the United States footprint on top of Europe and like it covers such a large space. I saw those I don't know if I call it a meme, but I saw it on the internet like a week or two ago where they were just like, imagine going from like Florida to New York. Then they were like, imagine going from like Italy to Israel or something. Like there was just ultimately like the comparisons of distance to travel. The only main difference is you guys have some high speed trains and better ways of transportation than what we've kind of got down here.
If they come.
Yeah.